guys. I'm trying to work out before kiddo wakes up and I am too late. Baby monitor is starting to go off a little bit, and it does not help that his room is directly above our workout station. Literally the treadmill is under the crib. Great, I know. I'm gonna try to run real quick or weightlift. I'm gonna try to do something until he starts crying, because right now he's just kind of talking. So let's see how much we can get done. Let's do this. Let's get you up. Are you gonna give me any smiles? So even when I'm about to touch him, I try to warn him with, especially when I go towards his face, just because I don't want to startle him. So just to give a little warning. We are just not having it. Should we tell him why? Because someone was such a big boy and had to get all his shots in his leg yesterday, and he was not feeling good. He didn't have a fever like last time, but he was not sleeping last night. As soon as I had stopped tapping him or anything, he just started crying. So we did not have a good night, did we, buddy? Mommy and baby got shots yesterday, and it's so hard, isn't it, my man? It's a rough life. Mwah. Let's do a sit-up. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Sit up, sit, sit, sit. Good job. You're so strong. Hey, mommy's picking you up. Here we go, up. I also got my lab work drawn yesterday. In a previous video, I was kind of complaining about my hair loss and how much I was shedding. Everything came back normal, and they were on the lower end of normal, but normal. So at least I know it's not because my thyroid's bad, and it's just because my body's rejecting me. Yay! I do not want to lean back in the chair because I'm sweaty. What I'd like to talk about today is our first week with Jensen and what that looked like for us. Definitely the biggest roller coaster I have ever been on. It was a Monday. I was 38 weeks one day. And funny enough, that day something happened that I was just laughing so hard. I kept telling my coworkers, I'm like, you guys need to stop because you're gonna put me in labor. Well, little did we know, even though I was induced, but it's still kind of funny. Okay, pause. I had to stop because I ramble, and I decided that my first week of life for Jensen was just way too long, and so I cut out some information, including his first day of life, which would be day 0. Pretty uneventful. I'm gonna split his video up to part 1 and part 2. Part 2 being our trip to the eye surgeon and then his surgery the next day. Sorry to interrupt, and please resume. Day 1 of life, our pediatrician came to meet us and check him out, and everything checked out at that time, except that he had some bilirubin issues, which I know that's pretty common. That night, we had him under the phototherapy light. However, it wasn't the nice kind that were in Boxton. It was kind of a makeshift one. Some blankets hanging around it to try to keep him warm. So with COVID, they would not take babies into the nursery, and it was horrible. I don't think he was warm enough in it, because we had to do that later with one of the nice ones, and he was completely fine. Anyway, the little protective glasses that he was wearing, he would just rip them off his face, and it would go over his mouth and nose. So every time we would try to just let him cry it out because they needed us to keep him under there. I kept waking up to him pulling that down. I didn't want him to suffocate himself. We tried different size glasses, and it was just awful. I am very proud of us as a couple and as parents, because we finally just did shifts throughout the night. I mean, we were up with him all night because we had to wake up every time he started crying to make sure that he didn't shove the glasses over his face. He wouldn't take a passy. We would just have to hold the pacifier in his mouth in there. Just did 2-hour shifts, and we were like, we can't do that again. That was just awful. I mean, we really wanted them to take him to the nursery, and they can't because of COVID. You're being such a good boy. Takes us to day 2 of life, and our pediatrician checked him out again, and this time I was watching him. It felt like he was furrowing his brow. I'm like, yeah, something just wasn't right. Good job. The pediatrician was really looking at him. He was checking his eyes. He then mentioned to us that he wasn't really seeing the red reflex that's supposed to come back. He's like, there's another doctor here that I will have her check him out. That was a little unsettling, but we didn't really know what that meant. Jensen was taken to have his circumcision. I know, I'm so sorry to remind you. He had his 90-minute car seat challenge. Yes, but I was told you took a nap during the whole time. 90-minute car seat challenge, didn't know that was a thing either, but when they're under a certain weight, have to be tested to see how they do in the car seat to make sure. Rude. to make sure that the seatbelt's like not cutting off their circulation and they're able to get enough oxygen and they're just okay in there. He passed that fine. While he was gone, other doctor checked him out, came in and talked to us and said something's not right with his eyes, and I also heard a heart murmur. Yeah. So he had an echo done of his heart that showed a hole in his heart. Ventricular septal defect is pretty common and will typically close on their own. So no one told us initially kind of what was going on, just that the ventricular septal defect, but we figured it wasn't a huge issue since no one really readdressed it as far as when he had surgery. Months down the road, we got it checked out again and they found a second hole, but she was not worried about it. Yeah? What you talking about? Oh. I think it's time for a change of scenery. What are you thinking there, kid? Yeah. Here's your swing. Here's your swing. Oh, bless you. We try to give him things to play with and consistently put it in the same place. He's got his crinkle toy for his legs. One toy that it doesn't necessarily make noise, but he can chew on it. Other soft plushy toy that has some different textures, some ribbons on it, but it also has a bell inside of it. He really loves the crinkle. He's very expressive through his feet, so he will just kick away. Day 2 of life, they were trying to get all these tests done and let us leave because we had to go straight to a eye doctor's appointment that was down the road. We left the hospital, had that appointment. They threw out the word bilateral hemorrhage, and I'm like, well, that doesn't sound good. The doctor told us he's not really a specialist in pediatrics, kind of told us what they were looking at. Naturally, Josh and I Googled things. The worst outcome is blindness, but it could be this, that, and the other. Josh, amazing husband that he is, just said, let's kind of forget about this, take our son home and enjoy taking him home. Day 3 of life, we drove up to the university and it just got better from there. Among the news that we received, but I also packed my portable pumping stuff, which came with a battery pack. Well, yeah, there's 2 sides. Make sure you put the batteries in both sides because I did not. I was sitting in the car for hours, engorged, and I was passing the time by complaining to Josh, even though we have worse things to worry about. Anyway, Josh had me on speakerphone. The only thing that I can specifically remember from everything that the doctor was saying was that his eyes are not compatible with vision. I just had to mute it because I broke down. I was crying, Josh was crying. Oh my gosh, I haven't actually talked about it out loud and it's making me tear up because it was just so horrible having to be alone in that moment. But at the same time, like, I don't want to talk to anyone else. Like, I just wish I could have been in there with Josh. I felt bad for myself. I felt bad for Josh because just in there with a newborn baby, his newborn baby boy, and we're being told that he's gonna be blind. You know, obviously we've had time to cope with that because blindness is blindness. We can still have a normal life, but for the past 9 months, we envisioned life one way and all of a sudden, boom, you're told that life is going to be completely different. It's a lot to take in. I am trying to be all optimistic and like, oh gosh, you know, Jensen's going to broaden our horizons. All these things that you're like, okay, you know, he can still do everything that anyone else can do for the most part. He'll be a strong kid. And then, you know, your mind flips back the other way. I am just a weird person and notice the simplest of things. Like when I was pregnant with him on a walk, I noticed, this is kind of embarrassing. I noticed a leaf on the ground, like a very small leaf, and it had a dewdrop in it, like, or a raindrop, like perfectly little raindrop. And I'm like, how beautiful. Like just the simple things like that I just enjoy. Or out in the winter, I was looking at the sparkling on the snow and just the fact that he won't be able to see those things. It's just hard. Yeah, there I am sitting in the car with engorged boobs. Josh is inside with terrible news. All I could do was text my mom. It was just mom, period. He's blind. And like, and then I just broke down. Just saying that one brings back the memories so much that one gets me every time because I couldn't say anything more. Josh and I just didn't want to see anyone. We didn't want to talk to anyone. I was talking to family, but even then I couldn't really respond to family as much as I appreciated their responses. We just kind of went home and we were taking the weekend to just cry. We were watching YouTube videos, like a 3-year-old using a cane, and like that was uplifting. That was nice to see. Like we loved that, but there wasn't a lot of information out there besides that little girl and then an adult that has a YouTube channel. Yeah. The university on Friday set us up with this retinal consultant in suburbs of Chicago. He's being so good. I'm gonna finish this story a little bit later. I need to shower too and make him happy. Yes, okay. Okay. His temperature is normal, so that's good. Ah! Yeah, you just punched me right in the shot zone. Oh, thank you, I feel so alive now.